Hi everyone, welcome back to part 3 of this tutorial. So we're going to carry on with our green and yellow petals in this tutorial. I have had a request to put the reference photo up on the screen here somewhere, so I might have it over here or over here, but I won't be able to zoom in as much on the artwork. So in part 2, I tried to zoom in so you could really see what I'm doing. This time I'm going to try putting the reference photo on the screen so that you can look at that while you're looking at my reference here. So let me know which you prefer, the more zoomed in so you can see what I'm doing, or having, both on the screen. So with that being said, we're just going to jump right into this. And I'm going to start also, before we jump in, I guess, everything will be listed down in the description below. I will have the reference photo that you can download and the line art for this that you can download as well. And I will have parts 1 and part 2 down there too, so that you can follow along. And I am using the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, but if you had the Polychromos pencils, it's the exact same pencil. So if you wanted to use colored pencils, you can certainly do that. And if you don't have Polychromos, then you can just look at the colors that I'm using and choose the colors that are closest to what you have, okay? So we are going to take our Polychromos, our Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils, and I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and just lighten up some of these lines, because I figure we're going to finish up filling in all of the petals today. We're just about done. And then we can just go in and darken up any shadows if we feel like we need to, and go from there. Okay, so starting with the cadmium yellow lemon, I'm going to take this on sort of this half of this little petal here, under this pink one. And again, whenever I'm going around those edges, I'm trying to push just a little bit harder so I get a nice crisp line when I'm trying to blend out. And I'm going to stop about there, and then just fill this color in. And I'm going to sort of take this color just along the edge of this petal here, but I'm not going to push so much. I just want sort of an underpainting of it, so that when we go on top with the green, the edge will still stay a little bit brighter. So I'm just sort of lightly bringing it along here, just enough for the color to show up. And then I'm also going to take this color and push just along right here underneath this pink petal, where it's sort of like an yellow orangey-ish petal. I'm going to take this color, and also I'm going fairly hard here because I do want that nice defined line right under this pink petal. And then I'm just going to fade this color out a little bit. So maybe about 1/3 to half away down the petal. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, but I'm going to go about maybe halfway of this middle-ish petal here. So I'm just going to kind of keep it just in this area, and then just lightly, almost glazing it down. Now, even though I say I'm glazing, these colors do come up pretty pigmented because these watercolor pencils are very pigmented. So even when you just see we've done one layer in these other areas, the color does really pop. So I like that about these pencils. I'm also going to take this color and line this petal right here. And I'm only going to go maybe about, maybe from about this spot here to about this spot here, where the shadows would start. So I'm just going to take it and firmly go along these edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just sort of want it to be a little bit brighter along there. And then I'm sort of just gonna, again, blend this color out a little bit, not going quite down to the bottom of this petal, maybe about halfway. Okay, and same with this petal. I'm gonna line pretty much this whole big petal out here with this color. So take your time with this if you want to be pretty precise. And then I'm gonna maybe color in about a quarter of this, and I'm gonna go pretty much to the edge here because we can see this edge in our reference photo, and there's not a whole lot of shadowing right here. So I'm gonna take that color down there. And then over here, there's sort of, we can see some shadowing coming in, but we can't see this edge of the petal, but I'm imagining that that shadow is going to continue, so I'm going to start this color sort of where this little curvy bumped area is. And I'm going to color in about a quarter of this petal with this color. And it's a nice bright yellow, so it's really going to show that the sun's hitting on these petals over here. Perfect. So I'm going to go in with the light green now, and that's 171. And I'm going to fill in the other part of this petal here that we left. So I'm going to come along sort of where this pink petal almost meets it. And that's where I'm going to start that edge. And then I'm just going to fill in and I'm still overlapping it with that yellow that we put on the edge. Just not going very hard because I do want the yellow to show through a little bit. And I'm just going to lightly glaze this color just a little bit over here in this curved area, just to help blend the two colors together. Okay, and I'm also going to line this green petal here with this color. I want this edge to stay nice and bright. And then I'm going to put where we left that area right here, I'm going to sort of line here as well. And down here in this corner, I'm also going to put some and sort of blend that down and out in this area. Okay. Now I'm going to take the light phthalo green, which is 162, and this is sort of like a very light bluish green, like a minty green. And I'm going to put this right in this area here, just where this petal sort of curls over. I can see that color there. And all I'm doing with these different colors, if you don't have all these colors, that's fine. Use what you have, but there's a lot of variation in these petals, a lot of little different colors everywhere. So that's all I'm doing, is just trying to choose colors that just have some varying greens, some varying blues, some varying yellows, you know, just colors like that. If you don't have them, that's fine. Use what you have. If all you have is one blue, use it. And I'm just going to continue this color right along this petal here and right under there. Okay. Then I'm going to take the grass green, 166, and I'm going to fill in most of this, and I'm going to leave maybe about 1/3 to 1/4 space for a really nice dark shadow there. And again, same here, I'm going to fill this area here, but leave this bottom part for a nice shadow. And I'm also going to take this color just slightly around here, leading into our blue shadow, but I'm not going to bring it up too much. I just want a hint of green down here, and I'm not pushing hard. Just want the blue and the green to sort of blend into each other here. I'm also going to take it underneath of that little blue line that or mint green line that we just put in. And I'm going to take it down maybe about halfway. So if we kind of go like this, I'm just going to fill up half of this area. Okay, and I'm also going to fill in most of this, so I'm going to leave maybe this part here for a really nice deep shadow, and I'm going to fill in this section here. And I'm also going to take a little bit more of this color and just concentrate it underneath of this yellow petal, because I really want the green to pop there. Then I'm going to come in with the permanent green. And I'm going to put that in here where we left that white space. And I'm going to overlap the other color a little bit too. And I'm not going to bother putting it here because that's going to be a really deep shadow. But I am going to put a little bit just around here, so maybe about, you know, from here to here kind of thing. Just almost right against this petal. And I'm going to put a little bit under here. And this is just going to help transition from our lighter greens to our darkest shadows. Just to get some variation in there. And again, I'm going to start putting it over here. So I'm going to overlap just a little bit. And I'm going over that blue a little bit too. Okay. So I'm going to grab the Naples yellow now, which is 185. And I'm going to pretty much fill in the rest of this petal right here. And again, any edges, I'm going to press a little bit harder just to get some nice crisp lines. Now where we want it to blend with the shadow here, I'm not going to press so hard. Okay, and I'm going to fill in this area with this color too, but I'm just going to lightly put it in because we're going to go over top with a darker color. So I don't want to completely fill the tooth up. I just want it to have a nice light glaze there. Okay, and I'm also going to put this color sort of where this pink petal is, and I'm sort of going to just put it, you know, coming out and around like this area here, because these shadows here on this side are going to be a little bit cooler that I can see once I'm really looking at the reference photo now. So we'll go back in with some of our cooler yellows and greens again. Okay. And I'm going to go back in with the, so I'm going to grab my cadmium lemon yellow and my light green. And I'm going to start with the cadmium lemon yellow first, and I'm just going to fill in this area, but really light, and I'm going to fill in the rest of this area as well. And I'm just going over it really light, except of course on the edge there I am going to press a little bit harder. And I'm going to take this color and blend it into that sort of orangey yellow color as well, just so that they'll transition nicely. And I'm doing the same thing here, just making sure those two colors are going to blend nicely. Then I'm going to take that light green and I'm going to start using this as part of our shadow color coming over here, because it's sort of a greeny hue to it. So I'm just almost lightly glazing it over, but a little bit darker right around the petal. Because the blue petal casting onto the yellow petal would make like a green shadow. And I'm just following, so basically where this petal goes down, it's basically where our shadows would be. I'm just going to have this color just a little bit out here. And then I'm going to switch to the brown ochre, which is 182. And I'm going to use this color for the rest of the shadow in here, because it's just sort of a neutral-ish shadow. Now with this color, I am going to press fairly lightly because I don't want it to overpower the petal, but I do want to show that there is, you know, a nice rich shadow in here. And I'm really trying to look at the shadow areas on the reference photo. I'm going to follow this color along under this petal, just sort of hugging it towards the edge. Maybe a tiny bit here as well. So the fun thing about art is you don't always have to follow your reference photo 100%, but you figure out what would make your piece stand out. Okay, and then I'm also going to start putting some just around the bottom part here where this shadow would be, and it's sort of all meeting together and blending together. And then it comes out a little bit more here as it sort of transitions into that greenish shadow. Okay, and then I'm also going to have this color down here, sort of in this area of this petal. And as well as down here, I can see a little bit of a brownish orange in there. Okay. Now I'm going to take our sanguine, which is the 188, and I'm really going to put that into this shadowed area here. So I'm following under that yellow petal. Okay, and I'm also going to put that just lightly glazing above where we put the burnt ochre or brown ochre. And in this area as well. Okay. And I'm just going to go back in with that lemon yellow real quick and just blend these areas together so that when we blend them out, they sort of blend and look cohesive. Okay. So there's a lot of different like color variations going on in there. Okay, so I just grabbed my cobalt green pencil, which is 156, and I'm going to put this in this area that we left blank right here. And I'm going to blend that over into the blue. And even though we already blended out this blue color, they'll still blend out nicely together. Okay, and I'm also going to take this color and put it sort of in this area that we left blank. And I'm not going to go all the way because that's going to be a really dark shadow there. And I'm going to blend this color down into the greens that we had put down there earlier. And I'm also going to blend it up into that, I believe it was the sky blue we had put there. Okay. And now I really want to intensify some of these blues, so I'm just going to go back in with that light cobalt turquoise. And I'm actually going to put that up here as well and blend these colors together, just because I want our blues to pop a little bit more than what they are. And I'm going to go over this area again too. And over this area, this petal here too. And I'm doing this sort of quick and messy because we already have a base layer of that color down. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to take that sky blue that we had, and I'm just going to go over this blue here too. And again, I'm being fairly messy. I just really want our blues to pop a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to go in with the pine green now, which is 267. And I'm going to start laying this into some of the darkest shadows in the green areas. So right here, underneath these petals, I'm going to sort of focus it just around the edges. And here as well. And the nice thing about watercolor pencils is you can be pretty, scratchy with them if you want, or you can be pretty precise and lay them down pretty even. But when you're blending them out with water, it gets rid of all that scratchiness. So now, obviously not all watercolor pencils are made the same, but I have to say for these ones, the Albrecht Durer ones, they blend out like a dream. So I'm going to start laying this dark color in under this petal. And also in this area. And I'm also going to put it down here. And I'm going to sort of cover the spot that we already put that blue in, just because I'm not really liking that color of shadow there, so we're just going to mix it with the green and see what we get. And I might even put a little bit of black in there just to show that the shadow really is nice and dark and deep. Okay. And I think that's everywhere I want that color. Now I'm just going to go in and sort of deepen up a couple of shadows here and there before we blend out. And I'm going to take the magenta pencil and I'm going to go in to this little shadow here under this pink leaf. Concentrated in here. So I definitely see for some of the shadows we need to go a little bit darker, a little bit deeper, and that will make some of our other colors pop. I'm going to put it under here between this yellow and pink leaf. And I'm going to intensify here a little bit more. And as well in this shadow here, I'm going to intensify that color. And then I'm just going to let it blend up a little bit. I have a tiny little bit under here to make this leaf sort of stand out a little bit. So this is where we're going in, adjusting our colors, seeing where we want to add, take away. I'm going to take that blue violet, and again I'm just going to deepen up this shadow along here a little bit. I'm going to drag that color down into here. I'm also going to take that and go over this shadow in here, because I'm noticing on my reference photo it's a little bit more of a purple cast than a blue cast shadow. So we're just going to cover that up. Now this part will go pretty quickly because we're just sort of enhancing or filling in what was already there. Okay, and I'm going to go in with the crimson and just sort of put this in a couple of places as well. Maybe along here, just suggesting some more shadowing. I really want our pinks and purples to kind of pop. And I might even put some more of that here. Now I'm trying to be fairly quick with this because I don't want this video to be forever and ever. So if you need to pause or stop and, you know, go back to what I'm doing, certainly do that. And I'm even going to grab that light magenta and just go over top of our light pink again, because I really want that color to pop nicely. And I'm just going to take it over this area as well. And I'm being super, super messy. I'm not really covering the whole petal completely because I just want sort of just a bump up of that color a little bit. I don't want to cover everything that we've already had down. And I'm going to take that violet and do the same thing. Just cover a couple of areas. And I'm sort of going to go along the edges of this petal a bit here, just to really make it stand out from that pink petal. And I'm going to take it and sort of go over this one a little bit too, just to make those purples pop. And just ever so lightly glazing the edge of this one as well. Just because I'm really liking that purple look on the edge of the pink petal. But you do you. You can put a different color there if you want, or you can have it all pink. Okay. And I'm just going to take that lemon yellow and just go over these petals one more time, just so that make sure we have enough pigment when we're blending them out, because I don't want to have these really light and these ones stand out. I mean, you could always go over and do another layer if that happens, but we'll just glaze over a little bit more while we have it now. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with our black, which is our 199, and just where our deepest, darkest shadows are, I'm going to just sort of line a little bit. So there's sort of a really dark shadow just along the edge of this petal here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. It sort of comes along this one. And I'm going to put this color in here to really darken up this shadow. And in here. Now I'm not covering the whole shadow area. And I'm going to go in with the Indanthrone Blue, which is 247, and fill in the rest of this shadow area. Because I'm sort of seeing I don't like where we had put that Prussian blue color down. So I'm just going to cover it up with this color. It's too sort of warm of a blue compared with our darker, cooler blues. So we're just going to fix that and cover it up. And I'm also going to put this color into this shadow here. Okay. And I'm going to take this black color and start filling in some of this shadow around here, because this is a really dark shadow again. And I don't want the black to overpower too much, but that's why we laid our colors in first. And I'm just going over very lightly with the black. It might look like I'm pressing hard, but this black watercolor pencil is very pigmented, and I'm not pushing hard at all, really. I'm just sort of glazing over those darker colors that we've gotten there. Again, I'm going to do this bottom part where that really dark shadow is. Down here where we had put the blues at first, and then we covered them up with the greens. And it's all about trial and error. I'm going to cover up this magenta as well, because this is a really dark shadow. I'm not going to cover the whole area though. I'm going to leave a little bit of that magenta showing through on this side. And again, I'm going to put this dark shadow in here, and I'm going to follow this leaf because there's a nice dark shadow under it. Again, every time you see me stop, I'm really looking at that reference photo, seeing where those shadows are going. And all these colors under the black is going to make it not look as flat either, as if we were, you know, instead of if we just put the black down, it would look pretty flat. So I always like to layer colors under if I can, you know. Some circumstances it might just be a black, but when I can, when it calls for it, I will definitely layer colors underneath. So this is pretty dark under here, so I'm just lightly, just ever so lightly glazing that around. Again, I'm just looking for those darkest shadows, and I'm trying to get this color in there. And now we're really working on the shape of some of these petals. So where we laid in all of our colors, we're kind of coming in now and shaping them with our really dark darks. And it's going to make those petals sort of pop. So the shadow comes here and comes around. I'm just going to put a tiny dark shadow right in this corner right here. It's not too dark. And right in between here. And now this is pretty dark here. Okay. And I'm just going to do just the lightest touch right in here at the base of this where the darkest shadow would be. Just barely touching that paper. Okay, so I think at this point we can go ahead and start blending out again. And I'm going to sort of start blending from this side over to this side just so I don't get my hand into anything, but I'm still going to try to keep light to dark. And I'm going to get some of those pencils out of the way. So, depending what medium you're using, you know, do your chosen way of blending, or if you want to go in and use, you know, an actual watercolor brush, then you do that at this point. And if you're happy with how some of this other rose looks, you certainly don't have to blend anything else out. You can just leave it as is. You know, if you went over top with your watercolor pencils and you just want to leave it the way it was, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to blend it out again. It's just all personal preference. And by just leaving that first layer, not going back and doing a second layer, you're going to really enhance the watercolor look to it that you're going to get. So if that's something that you're looking for, you know, keep that in mind and maybe don't go over top with another layer. And if you drag the dark pigment into it, just go over it and wipe it out. It's fine. Just gonna get a little bit more water on the water brush. Now, if you guys ever want to switch down to a smaller brush, you certainly can, but I'm sort of just keeping with this brush. It's working for me. So I'm just going to keep with it for now. And I apologize if I'm a little quiet while I'm doing this part, but it's really not too much to explain here, especially if you've been watching the other videos, I'm sort of doing the exact same way we've been blending it out. I'm going to blend this area, sort of blend it down into this dark shadow area where we put the black. And I don't want to drag that black out too much. And I'm really trying to make sure I go up to those petals, but not go over them. And I'm being quite careful here where the pink and the yellow meet, because that yellow is still a bit wet. So I'm just making sure around the edges. They overlap a tiny bit, it's fine, but there, so I hope you can see it's popping a little bit more now that we've darkened some of our shadows up. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting my videos / tutorials. Let me know down in the comments below what you want to see coming up. And thank you so much for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next video.